Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. This is July 1st, 2018. If you're watching the show instead of listening to it, right now you see Pete Rollick on his deathbed, and it was really kind of him to come to visit the show today. So, Richard Chismar was supposed to be on today, but he had some house guests, so I'm scheduling Richard Chismar for later in the year. So welcome to Heather and Kat. We'll have you guys introduce yourselves like the rest of us do, but we got two new panelists, or sometimes panelists. I don't know. Whatever you guys tell me. Let's do introductions and go from there. Hey, Joe, how about you start?
Okay. I'm Joe Pulver, writer, editor.
Kelly
Young, executive editor, Strange Eons magazine.
Kat.
Hi, I'm. Sorry, I had to turn my.
Oh, you're muted now, actually.
Get it backwards.
There you go.
There we go. Is it back on?
Yep.
God, I'm having a delayed reaction syndrome on my microphone here. Hi, my name is Kat Rocha, and I'm the editor-in-chief and owner of 01 Publishing.
Okay. Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt Carpenter. I'm presently editing Pickman's Gallery for Ophir Press. I have our prize today in honor of Joe's return. This is a paperback copy of the Shirley Jackson Award-winning anthology, Grim Scribe's Puppets. It is a wonderful book with a beautiful cover and even better stories.
And tribute anthology to Thomas Ligotti. Pete, dead guy.
I'm Pete Rollick, writer, editor, dope addict.
And you have been reanimated from your surgery.
I am.
All right. All right. Philip.
Philip Fracassi, a writer and screenwriter.
Rick.
Rick Lay, writer.
And Heather.
I'm Heather Landry. I'm an artist, and I have all my stuff over at Sandpaper Daisy Art, if you want to look at it.
Okay. And I'm Mike Davis with Lovecraft eZine, and Heather is doing the cover for the new edition of Behold the Void by Philip Fracassi, which will be out
next week
someday.
Oh,
no, actually, we've got black and white interior art too. So this is going to take a few months, but it's going to be, since the previous edition of Behold the Void is now out of print, we wanted to do something really special. So.
Yeah, and having seen a sample of that interior illustration artwork, I am very excited to see how this thing comes together, because I love the look of this artist, and I think people are going to be really thrilled with the interior art, and then we'll see what Heather can come up with on the exterior art, and it'll be nice to have that book back out in print. Hopefully, by the end of the year, and let people start buying it again.
Well, I have no doubt about the exterior art, because Heather did the cover for Shiloh, which is bloody fantastic.
Gorgeous, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're very talented. Important announcement: Kelly Young just had a birthday, turned 50. I want to wish him a happy birthday and welcome to the 50s.
49, you asshole, but thank you.
Oh, 49. I'm sorry. God, I don't know how I made that mistake.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm so
You're a big
sorry.
fucking dick.
Yeah.
That's one. Happy birthday, Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday.
You're older than I am.
Not many people are.
I just like to point those things out when they come up. No, who's younger?
Pete
more
is alive.
spry.
Pete is alive. Pete had surgery. He's here with us today, coming to you live from, it looks like his hospital bed, but it's not.
No.
He's at home.
But it's nice that you think that my home bed looks like a hospital bed.
Well, that bedding kind of reminds me of a hospital bed.
Yeah.
Well, Pete always is laying in bed when he's doing the podcast, so it's, it's really not that different.
Did he really have surgery? We don't know.
Yeah. No, you want to see the cuts?
That's okay. I believe you.
Nobody wants to see that.
Gross.
Just did a Patreon podcast for those who are interested. Just Google Lovecraft eZine Patreon. And Brian Sammons and I talked about horror movies for like an hour and 15 minutes. It was really, really fun. So that's only $5 a month if you want extra content from Lovecraft eZine. Okay, that commercial over. How shall I start this? Let's start with The Endless. We watched that last night on Lovecraft eZine movie night.
Okay, first of all, if you have a life and loved ones and you go do fun things, fine, good for you. If not, consider joining us on Lovecraft eZine movie night.
If you have no life, yeah, and if you have no life, also watch us on Sunday, or even listen to the podcast at all.
So the thing is, we watched this movie last night, and it is a superb Lovecraftian movie. You got to understand when you start to watch it, accept the low budget, okay? Accept the fact that some of the script in the beginning is clunky and it doesn't move real well. But then when you get about a third of the way in, and the protagonists get to the area where they think there's a cult, it goes on a slow burn, and I had no idea how it was going to end. It was really, I thought, a very enjoyable movie.
Now,
Okay.
I just watched Resolution, which is the prequel.
Right.
And I was not overly impressed. It wasn't a bad movie. I just didn't think it was a good movie.
Well, you got to again, in this kind of budget, I don't think, they have very few sets. The special effects, except maybe at the end, are not the greatest. But the story itself, especially that last 2/3 of it, last half, I thought it was really compelling.
Well, I've not seen Resolution, but everybody tells me that it's kind of cool to see because there's a couple of returning characters, but that The Endless is far better than Resolution. So who else here has seen The Endless?
Yeah, I thought The Endless had a great concept, but I'm going to be a little more critical than that.
Okay.
It is a slow burn to get there.
Okay. A little too slow, you thought?
Yes.
Okay. Kelly, I think you've seen it.
Yeah, we talked about it last time, and I really enjoyed it. I also look at these. I'm a little more forgiving with these low budget films. These are the films we should be celebrating. I think the big blockbusters where they can just throw money at a script and make it look gorgeous and make the effects and all that stuff. That's really easy to do because it's just throwing money at it. When you've got a small group of guys, in this case, these two guys who have done Spring and Resolution, and this is their third film. I think these are the things that should be getting Academy Awards because this takes some kind of effort to make something like this. And having made a couple of films, it's always just it's amazing that any film is good, quite honestly, because there's a million things that can go wrong while you're making this film.
Yeah. Well, they did everything: writing, acting, directing, editing.
Right. I enjoyed it a lot. The effects are a little cheesy and some of the acting is a little clunky, but I thought it was a really, really good film.
I really didn't notice any cheesy effects, to be honest. I thought it just did what it needed to do. But
that's good then. Yeah,
but I'm the average moviegoer. You've got training.
Oh no, my training on watching a film is being an average moviegoer. That final effect is a little weak.
Yeah, that was weird. But yeah, we won't give anything away. But it is a very good Lovecraftian movie. Okay, so anyone else here has anyone else here seen The Endless? I don't want to leave anybody out. Okay, I guess we'll move on. Kelly, I hope you're fucking happy because you've been nagging me for months to see The Girl with All the Gifts.
Finally.
And Mike Carey is going to be here as a guest on November the 4th.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yes, I will be watching the movie. I will be reading the book. I want to shout out to Benjamin Handelman, who I wish I could clone, because not only is he at the highest level tier and the Patreon, but he's just a great guy, and he's friends with Mike Carey and told him that he needs to come on the show. So Mike Carey is very happy to do it.
Very cool.
So
cool.
You get your wish that I will see the movie.
Good.
Which I had planned to do anyway, but
It's a good movie. It's worth seeing.
So
there's only so much nagging you can take. You know what I'm saying.
And Mike Carey's got a lot of books that are worth reading, even outside the one that got him on the map, so to speak, at least here in the U.S., which is The Girl with All the Gifts, and the two follow-ups to that. But he has a trilogy of books that I can't put my finger on right now as the titles, but they're excellent. That have to do with a like kind of a detective battling demons, kind of Constantine kind of thing. And he also does a lot of graphic novels and comic books and stuff like that. He's got quite a laundry list of credits. He's somebody that if you haven't checked out, I would highly recommend going on Amazon and doing a search for him and going through his back log of titles, because it's quality stuff and there's a lot of good stuff there.
Well, and hopefully you'll be here on the 4th to help me out with this interview, since you seem pretty knowledgeable. And Kelly too, of course.
So you haven't seen that
honestly,
movie?
the only reason why I resisted it is because it's a zombie film. So that's it. That's
I don't know if
the only
I'd
reason.
call it a zombie film.
Okay.
Would you, Kelly?
Well, this is what has to happen for the zombie genre to continue, is you have to start doing different things with it. So I think that you're kind of forced into calling it a zombie film, but only because, on the outskirts of it, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, at the
But
same
they
time,
don't die. There's not. I don't think they're not dead. They're not reanimated dead. Like they're not Romero zombies. It's a different thing going on. It's almost more vampiric than zombie-esque.
yeah, I mean, you could also compare it to, Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the same way.
Okay.
But yeah, there's something somewhere in between there. But it's a decent sci-fi horror film.
Okay. Well, I will read the book as well.
There's a thin line between a vampire and a zombie. I was watching some videos from the Robert E. Howard convention, and they were arguing that the vampires in the Solomon Kane story, The Hill of the Dead, are really zombies.
Rick, this reminds me, maybe you remember, it's 4th season of Angel, and it's where zombies take over Wolfram and Hart. Pete, you probably remember this too. So Angel's there with his crew to rescue his son, who's stuck in the building. So the zombies start coming slowly towards him, and Connor, his Angel's son, goes, well, what are those? What are those? Because he's from another dimension. We won't even get into that. And Angel's like, they're zombies. And Connor's like, what's a zombie? They're dead, slow-moving things. They're dead, stupid, slow-moving things. And Connor says, like you? He's like, no, they're dead. It's different. Trust me. So, we talked about Behold the Void. Now I'd like to bring it down a little.
We can go deeper into the Behold the Void if you want. We can really stretch it out.
Not unless you want to badmouth somebody, I'll go there. But
no.
Okay. Harlan Ellison died.
He did.
That is not good. But he lived to be 84, so that's a good long time. Anybody want to say anything about that? What's your favorite Harlan Ellison book or did he kick you in the balls at any time, or
He totally kicked me in the balls once.
did he?
Yeah, I have kind of a weird perspective on him, I'm sure, because I just collect like old horror omnibus stories, like the old Alfred Hitchcock stories and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's actually where I've run into him, in like older stories that he wrote like in the 60s or 70s or whatever.
Yeah.
But he wrote this one really great, creepy story called The Whimper of Whipped Dogs. Have any of you guys ever read that one? Do you remember it?
Yep. It's a
That
classic.
that one got me so hard. I won't try to give it away, but it's basically like the way that the city eats away at your soul and how it just reduces you all to inhuman worshippers of something that's greater and more terrible than yourself to be able to survive the pressures of the city. It's really good.
I think that one's in Stalking the Nightmare, maybe? The collection?
It could be.
I'm guessing.
Well, I think I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is one of the scariest stories of all time.
I have two things about Harlan Ellison. One thing is, I remember going to hear Caitlin Kiernan speak, and she would sit next to him at like these award banquets or whatever, because apparently nobody liked to sit next to him because he was such a grouch. And she didn't know. She was very naive at the time. Like he said, he sat next to her, and the first thing he did, looked at her, and he says, "Who the hell are you?" And he says, "Why are you so damn tall?"
Okay.
But at any rate, if I want to think about a story of his that really had an impact on me, it would be that original, I think it was The Death Bird, wasn't it? Was that it? The one about, it was one of the very first stories I ever read that kind of turned over Christian themes so that the opposite was true. And I just, for a teenager in the 70s, that was very heady stuff.
Yeah, but Ellison to me is, of course, as good as he was a writer, editor with Dangerous Visions. I mean, Dangerous Visions came along and it just completely rewrited the world as far as what we'd read for, what had been science fiction and was headed into speculative fiction. Just an amazing volume of work. So I always think of him, and Dangerous Visions again was good, but after the impact of the first volume, a little less so. But I was thinking him editorially first.
I will always remember The Prowler in the City at the Edge of the World, which is his sequel in Dangerous Visions to Robert Bloch's A Toy for Juliet.
Right, which a favorite of mine. Not as good as the Bloch though. A very good story, an excellent sequel, but still, nothing's as good as the Bloch.
That I would agree with you.
And let's not forget his television work. I mean,
oh yeah,
he wrote some of the greatest episodes of Star Trek.
City on the Edge of Forever.
And
Outer Limits.
Outer Limits, Demon with a Glass Hand. Wasn't he a consultant for Babylon 5?
Yes.
And he appeared on Babylon 5 as well.
Did you mention The City at the End of Forever?
We did.
Yeah.
What was the story? Soldier?
Soldier, which, backhandedly was, I think, awarded money from Cameron, right?
Yeah, well, if you put Soldier and Demon with the Glass Hand together, you kind of get Terminated.
Okay.
I just reread, I think probably the best Star Trek novel ever, at least near the very top, called Federation by, I'm blanking on their names. But it's, the Guardian of Forever is in it. And there are several other really good novels, Star Trek novels, where the Guardian of Forever plays a part. Time for Yesterday and Yesterday's Sun. Yesterday's Sun's a fantastic Star Trek novel. If any of you people out there are into Star Trek, I'm sure I'm the only one.
Can I ask you a question about Yesterday's Sun?
Yes, please.
Because I've never read it.
I love it.
That's fine.
I know that it has to do with the time Leonard Nimoy, Spock went back in time and had that affair with the Marriott Hartley character.
Right.
Did that give birth to the Romulan race?
I don't think so, because that planet was destroyed 5,000 years later.
Okay.
So, no, I really don't think so.
Okay. I was just wondering, since Spock went back in time, and that could have been a great explanation for Romulus.
Time for Yesterday is really good. The sequel, Yesterday's Sun, where they need to go back. The Guardian of Forever is acting up in Yesterday's Sun. And it's basically speeding up the stars in the galaxy, possibly in the universe, and maybe they've got like 6 months before every star dies. So, of course, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy go visit the Guardian of Forever, but the only person who's ever had successful telepathic contact with it is Spock's son, who's been dead for 5,000 years on another planet. So they go get him. It's just a really good story. And my point is, all of this originated with City on the Edge of Forever by Harlan Ellison. That one idea. This artifact that's been around for billions of years, even before our solar system coalesced. So, this deep time concept, I think we're all fond of that. Okay, anything else about Harlan Ellison? Anybody else?
I was just going to say, if people are interested in, such as Dan Simmons, there are Dan Simmons fans listening. Harlan wrote the introduction to Dan's collection, Prayers to Broken Stones, and he tells a very cool story about how he was very grumpily had to go to, I think it's Colorado or something, and he had to vet this contest, this young writers contest, and it was such a pain in the ass, and he hated it. He didn't want to be there, and all the writing was crap, and da-da-da. But there was one writer who had an exceptional story and made him cry, and he knew the guy was going to be a genius and a huge success. And anyway, that guy was Dan Simmons, and Dan Simmons talks a lot about how Harlan got his career going, and he won the contest, obviously, but also Harlan got him, helped him get an agent, get into Omni, and so I think there's a lot of those kind of stories with him and the writers. But I know Laird Barron has talked to me about some things that Harlan has taught him, and I know he's influenced a lot of writers. So it's very sad that he passed, and I think there's a lot of controversy about his personality and some of the things he did that were cantankerous or maybe not appropriate or whatever. But I think also from a pure writer's perspective, I think he was kind of a hero to many. So it's sad, but go read his work. It's the best thing you can do to remember him and keep his memory alive.
I like
me.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, please go ahead, Kat.
I was just going to say, for me, I came late, very late to his writing. I was introduced to him more from his television work. Demon with a Glass Hand is one of my favorite episodes of any television show of all time. And he was on my list of people I would have loved to have met in person. So I am sad that that's not going to happen. But you can't say that it's a tragedy. He lived a very long and full life. But what I was going to say was very interesting was a couple of years ago, IDW did a graphic novel adaptation of his script for City on the Edge of Forever, and with art by J.K. Woodward. And what the original ideas that he had were totally different than what we had on the screen. And it's interesting seeing the differences, what they kept from his original script, what they changed. Quite frankly, they wouldn't have had the budget to have done it back then. But if if you guys hadn't seen that book, I definitely recommend checking out. It's very interesting.
His epigraph that he wrote was, "For a brief time I was here, and for a brief time I mattered." I think I have that right.
Yeah, I saw that too.
You know, I never met him. Very obviously, it goes without saying what a talented writer he was, prolific writer he was. And as someone who never met him personally, he, you know, all these secondhand experiences that I heard about with him, he struck me as kind of a grouchy guy that genuinely wanted to help talented writers. You know, that's what it seemed to me. So yeah, he's gone, and you know, he left us a lot. So, Kelly,
Yes.
The Glass movie. What you want to tell me about this?
I sent you the poster, didn't I? Glass, the next M. Night Shyamalan film, which is going to be a sequel to Unbreakable and Split.
Right.
And I heard something weird, and it may have just been poorly worded journalism, but I heard them say that Paramount's also greenlit Unbreakable 2, but they made it sound like it was separate from Glass. But like I said, because they literally referred to it as Paramount's greenlit Unbreakable 2 and Glass is coming out next year. And I was like, wait a minute, there's going to be another Unbreakable movie as well. So they may be expanding that universe or going further with that even.
Well,
Everybody wants.
I heard the same thing actually, that they were gonna, do one that's official sequel and then do a bit of sneaking in yet another unofficial sequel and see if people catch it. So
everyone wants to be the Avengers these days.
Yeah.
What's the synopsis of Glass, Kelly? Do you know? I didn't have time to look it up.
No, and I don't think they've given us a synopsis. It's not coming out until, is it next year or is it November of this year?
I think it's next year.
We might be able to infer something because Samuel Jackson's character called himself Mr. Glass.
Yeah, and the poster shows Jackson, Bruce Willis, and why am I blanking on the name of
McAvoy?
Yes.
Okay, well, I just Googled it, and it says security guard David Dunn uses his supernatural abilities to track Kevin Wendell Crumb, a disturbed man who has 23 personalities.
And it comes out in January.
Okay. I'm hopeful for it. Unbreakable is a top 10 film for me. I really, really love that. Split, I thought was so, and then I just about fell out of my seat in the theater at the end. I was so excited.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. It'd be nice to see Bruce Willis get pulled into something good again.
Wouldn't it be nice to see M. Night Shyamalan, whatever his name is, do something? You keep this streak going if he's got some decent films going right now, and it's kind of nice to see because there's not a lot of quality horror directors out there. You see the string of real stinkers.
What was his latest movie? It was good. I can't remember what it was.
Split.
That's the only thing.
And then he had before that he had The Visit.
Yeah, and I did not like that.
I don't think I've seen The Visit.
You don't want to.
Okay.
Was that the one about the aliens?
No.
They're all about the aliens.
I'm not
no,
saying
it's
it's
evil
alien,
grandma.
but it's aliens.
Yeah, no spoilers, aliens. Yeah, I'd like. The Visit was good. They made that. I didn't like the actors. The kid was so annoying. But other than that, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, well.
Are we going to talk about Hereditary? Is that on the list?
We can if you want to.
I saw it last night. I don't know if anyone else has seen it though.
God,
Sure.
I keep needing to see it, but I haven't been able to find the time.
It's not out on video yet, therefore I have not seen it. Thanks, Pete. Go rest up, buddy.
See you, Pete.
Pete.
Oh. Well,
Yeah, talk about it.
I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It's a good movie. You should go see it. It's really well acted. It's really well made. It's very very witch reminiscent as far as like that kind of a pacing and that kind of looks great. Acting is unbelievable. Like Toni Collette's going to win an Academy Award for that role.
But you didn't like the movie.
I did like the movie. I had problems with the movie, but I can't tell you what my problems with the movie are because they'll give away the movie.
Oh.
Like there's no way to do it in a broad stroke. I mean, there is, but it would still like dampen the experience for people who have not seen it. And I know Kelly doesn't care about that sort of thing, but I think your listeners might. So I won't.
From the trailers that I've seen, it seemed to have a plot that's similar to Grandma by Stephen King. Am I right?
I don't remember that specific story. I remember that story, but I don't remember the details of it. I'd say it's very akin to a Rosemary's Baby type of a tale. And if you go in with that knowledge, maybe you won't be bummed out, or disappointed. But it's the thing that sets the movie apart is not so much the story, which is not earth-shattering, but the way it's filmed is brilliant. I mean, it looks unbelievable, and the actors and the way he films the actors, it's really engaging. It's really scary. The journey's great. So I recommend it if you want to go to the movie theater and see a scary movie.
Anyone else here seen Hereditary yet? I haven't. Well, A Quiet Place is now on video, so I've seen that. We watched it for the Davis Family Scary Movie Night. Success was had because Danielle was scared out of her mind.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. I thought it was a bit overhyped. What did you guys think?
I really loved it. I think that you can pick it apart afterwards, but seeing it in the theater, I was on the edge of my seat, at about 20 minutes in, and I didn't lean back until it was over.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it a lot as well. Yeah.
That beginning scene near the beginning, which I will not spoil for anyone, took me totally by surprise. I mean, I couldn't believe they went there. So, kudos for that, because that's sort of against the rules, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. It's probably my favorite movie of 2018. And that's including Hereditary, which I just saw, obviously. But I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic film. I thought for what it did not try and do, it stayed within its boundaries of what it was trying to accomplish, and I thought it accomplished it perfectly. And it's rare to see a movie that's close to perfect anymore, and especially in the horror genre. Then they are making a sequel. They announced it officially, and John Krasinski will be involved somehow. They don't know whether he's going to direct it or just produce it, or help write it. But they are writing the sequel now, and it has been greenlit. But they're going to take their time with it, they said, and shoot for 2020. I think is what
don't get me wrong. I thought it was an extremely good movie. But just I don't know.
I'm curious to see how it made me curious to see how Bird Box. The Bird Box is coming out.
Yeah, I was thinking of Bird Box too.
And it's a similar setup. So I'm interested to see how Bird Box pulls off some of the stuff, because I just reread that book, and the whole time I was reading the book, I was thinking about how are they going to do this? How are they going to do that? Because the whole gag with the book is nobody in the book, you can't see, you can't look at anything. You got to have your blindfolds on all the time, because if you look at stuff, then you see the creatures and you go crazy, and so it'd be interesting, and that's not giving anything away. That's what the whole book's about. But interesting to see how they pull that off in movie format.
Plus, there's a bird in a box too. So
there are some birds in a box, and then the people are birds in a box, metaphorically speaking. But I don't want to get too deep on you.
Not on this show. No,
I don't want to lose anybody. Kelly's already looking at me like, "What are you talking about? Metaphorical?"
Sorry, I just woke up. What were you talking about?
Yeah, you lost him.
Let's go back. Go back to Star Trek if you want.
The creature effect, the creature in A Quiet Place, the creatures were absolutely phenomenal. Really well done, I thought.
It's always interesting to hear people talk about these films. You were just saying that you thought it was a little overhyped, but that the creature effect was phenomenal. And then other people who I've talked to said they loved it, but the creature was stupid looking and stuff like that. It's always interesting to see everybody's different takes on these.
Well, of course, on this show, we're right. So
Go to any
Read-
Amazon. Go to any
There's
Amazon page for any book
Right.
and you'll see how disparate people.
There are 1-star reviews for the best books in the world.
Yeah.
You know, can
If you're
I
a writer, remember this when you get a bad review.
can I go on a little mini rant? Because I
No,
listen to
where's the
about
mute button?
I listen to about 1,000 podcasts a week, and at the end
And
of
you're
these
going to say this
podcasts,
is the best one?
it obviously is.
Yes.
Doesn't need to be said.
All right.
But at the end of these podcasts, they're all saying, "Hey, please go and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and all this stuff." And I'm like, wow, how about you not say that? That just makes me not like the person when they're saying, "Please go leave me the best possible review," instead of an honest review of what you think of my show.
Yeah, the word you want there is honest review.
Having said that, if everybody could just hit to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review.
Well, apparently the reason they do that, as far as I know, is because it affects how high the like the search, how easy they are to find on iTunes. They're trying to manipulate the metric of their show, I think.
Yeah,
I've been told that's what it
high on
is.
iTunes,
Yeah,
your
but
podcast well.
It seems disingenuous to tell people give us the highest ranking. It's like, well, of course you want the highest ranking, and no, that's why with Amazon, I always tell people, look, just give us a review because good, bad, as long as it's honest, I'm happy. And yes, it does help our algorithms no matter what, because it helps Amazon to figure out what types of people like your stuff or don't like your stuff, so they can recommend your books to people who are more likely to buy it. And so if you don't like it, it helps them to go, okay, these types of people don't, so these types of people will. So yeah, telling people give us 5 stars, that's tacky. That's really tacky.
Now that said, an honest review would leave us 5 stars on iTunes, obviously.
Yeah.
And,
well,
I mean,
it's funny because
do I even need to say that? I mean, it's self-apparent.
I mean, even any reviews do help because it does accumulate whatever the overall number of reviews. But like I had a review for Shiloh recently, and it was a 1-star review, and the review said, "Not a good movie." And somebody was like,
"The puppy could not act."
And they were like, "Dude, you should contact them, and tell them that, that." I'm like, no, it's fine. It's another review, I'll take it.
Well, speaking of podcasts, Google has a podcast app now for Android, and I looked up Lovecraft eZine podcast, and it came right up. So, I mean, I just typed in Lovecraft, and Lovecraft eZine podcast was at the top. So, I don't know if this new Google podcast app is going to start giving iTunes some competition, in the Android department. That would be good, but who knows? That's as technical as I'm going to get about it. You can also, just like iTunes, you can subscribe to podcasts, So, what other podcasts do you listen to, Kelly? I mean, besides this one, over and over.
Oh, Jesus. I listen to a lot of different stuff. I listen to podcasts about writing, about filmmaking, about film review, about old TV shows from the 70s. I listen to the Lore podcast, which I think you would love, Mike. Lore, Lore.
Okay.
I listen to Last Podcast on the Left and Miskatonic Musings. Those guys are our buddies. And music podcasts. I listen to the Kolchak tapes, which Rick would probably enjoy. They break down every episode of Kolchak, and do about a 2-hour show on it.
How did I not know about that one?
It's
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, really, really fun stuff. So I listen to a ton of everything, and it's very, very varying in my tastes.
This is Horror is a good podcast if you like this one.
Yeah.
They have good guests. And Lore, is that the same thing that's on Amazon?
Yes.
They added some animations to the same stories, and
yes.
Yeah, I watched a couple episodes. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
This is Horror is I don't know. They're not that discerning. They had you and me on there, Philip.
Well, I didn't say they wouldn't have whoever walked through the door, but eventually,
Eventually, some cream rises to the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, like Kelly said, leave us an honest 5-star review on iTunes. Has anybody here read a book called Penpal?
Yes.
What'd you think?
Dan, what's his name? He's the weirdest name. It's like
Yeah,
Dak.
I can't.
Dak
I'm going to try and
Tucker
get him on the show because he's
Balka?
got another book coming out in August.
Well, Penpal was, one of those was a weird history, which is that it started as an online. I think it was like a Reddit type thing where
It
he
was
would
on the No Sleep Reddit,
yeah, and he did a thing, and it got people started
which is awesome, by the
following
way.
it, right? And then he came out with the book, and the book was this massive, colossal hit, and rightly so. I thought it was a terrifying book, and it's
Yeah.
scary, very dark, and very scary. And very oddly told because it's kind of disjointed in the sense that it was this serial that it was put in the book form. It's not really not a traditional novel, but it's more of a set of.
He's putting together his memories from his childhood.
Fascinating book. Yeah, so he's a new book coming out. Bad Man or something.
Yeah, Badman. Yeah, not Batman. Badman. I'm Badman. The Penpal, I'll tell you, I was reading it last night, and I said to Danielle, this is, in my 50 years, one of the creepiest books I have ever read. It was insanely, and a lot of horror writers really can't get horror to the page. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The sense of horror and creepiness, just reading that book, I can't recommend it enough. And it's like $3.82 on Kindle. I don't know how much it is for print, but
he self-published it. It's Thousand Vultures is his publishing company, and
it's only $8 print.
The new one's not self-published. The new one's Doubleday, but that Penpal he.
What's the story? Give me the back of the book synopsis.
Okay, give me a second, and I will do that.
The author's name is Dathan Auerbach.
Dathan Auerbach.
Yeah, it's Auerbach. Okay, here we go. Penpal began as a series of short and interconnected stories posted on an online horror forum. Again, the No Sleep Reddit. If you're bored on the internet, there's some great stories on there. Before long, it was adapted into illustrations, audio recordings, and short films. I didn't know that. And that was before it was revised and expanded into a novel. I'm going to check those out. How much do you remember about your childhood? In Penpal, a man investigates the seemingly unrelated, bizarre, tragic, and horrific occurrences of his childhood in an attempt to finally understand them. Beginning with only fragments of his earliest years, you'll follow the narrator as he discovers these strange and horrible events are actually part of a single terrifying story that has shaped the entirety of his life and the lives of those around him. If you've ever stayed in the woods just a little too long after dark, if you've ever had the feeling that someone or something was trying to hurt you, if you remember the first friend you ever made and how strong that bond was, then Penpal is a story you won't soon forget, despite how you might try. And Penpal is one word, not two, for those looking it up on Amazon.
Yeah, and essentially it's a stalker novel. It's about a stalker.
Spoiler. That's a spoiler.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
It's two.
All right, forget I said it.
He probably doesn't even use pens, probably pencils.
I don't think it is a spoiler. That's the whole premise of the book, isn't it?
Crayons.
Don't really know that until I'll kill you later.
You read it.
Yeah.
And they're making a movie out of it too.
They are, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I hope that's done right. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Well, you talking about how this author was able to get horror onto the page. Honestly, that's what I'm very interested in. Because you're right, it is incredibly hard to get horror on the page. People can get, suspense or, mystery, but actual horror, that is incredibly hard. So
it's hard to do. It's very hard to do, and he does it really well. And I just can't recommend this book highly enough. What else was I going to say? Oh, you working on the sequel, Philip Penpal?
What?
Never mind. That was a dad joke. Anyway, Penpal by Dathan
Dathan
Arbach.
Yeah, Dathan's a interesting name.
Yeah. Anyway,
But it's been like 6 years since Penpal came out, so this new book is highly anticipated.
and Penpal is still selling well. I looked up the stats on Amazon, Kindle, and print. It's still selling well. I mean, really well. So, okay. Speaking of, well, I don't know how long this is going to go on, but it's been at least a week. Victor Lavelle's The Changeling is only $1.99 for Kindle right now, at least in the U.S. I don't know about other countries. So, you can't beat that price for a Victor Lavelle book. He's going to be on later in the year. Did I mention The Immaculate Void last week by Brian Hodge?
A little bit.
Well, that's here it is. It's a really good recent Lovecraftian novel if you're looking for something to read. The Immaculate Void by Brian Hodge.
Oh my God, that was a disturbing book too.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was really well written, very enjoyable. If you know Brian Hodge, The Same Deep Waters as You, he's written a number of really top-notch Lovecraftian tales, and I wouldn't say this is Lovecraftian in terms of like named entities or critters or creatures, but in sensibilities, it was just spot on. It's a wonderful book.
All right, this is not going to be fair to Joe or Kat or Heather, but we'll put them on the spot anyway, and we'll start with Joe. Last week, we ran out of time. We were talking about some of our one or two favorites in different horror genres. Like we covered weird fiction novel, and I said The Sea of Ash. You guys said other things. Haunted house novel, time travel, general horror, science fiction. I said Fahrenheit 451. Vampire novel. I think several of us said I Am Legend. That's where we stopped, I believe. Monster novel, and I don't know if this is right, qualifies or not, but I think it does. I was going to say Dan Simmons' Summer of Night. Is that? What do you think, Kelly?
There's definitely some good monsters in there. The burrowing monsters are pretty creepy.
Yeah. Joe, I really want to include you in this conversation because we've been talking about a couple of movies you've not had a chance to see. Do you want to talk about a couple of your favorites, like vampire novel, general horror novel? I'm putting you on the spot. I know that.
I'll be damned if I can remember the title, which frosts me to no end. Just before Interview with the Vampire came out, there was another vampire novel that I thought was brilliant.
In the same kind of vein as that, Joe?
Yeah, Gothic, same kind of era.
Was it Susie McKee Charnas?
No, it was written by a guy.
Okay.
It's over there on one of the shelves, but I can't see well enough to go search for it.
Not Andre Codrescu.
No. The thing is if I could think of the title, I'd feel stupid because it's so obvious.
No, that's not. I do that all the time. About it.
Give us a plot summary.
Yeah.
As far as monsters, and this is highly debatable, and if everybody wants to throw mud at me, that's fine. But
We will, no matter what you say.
that's fine. To me, it's Frankenstein. What Frankenstein is, what it was visually, iconically. Um, it's always been my favorite monster. Of course, I'm also really partial for the Phantom of the Opera.
I actually would have said the same thing, so you're good in my book.
And I think Matt said the same thing last week. Was that you, Matt? That
Yeah,
Frankenstein?
but
He
it was
said
for
best horror.
that was my best horror novel.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
As far as favorite horror novels, wow. I know one of them, modern, would be Skin by Kathy Koja.
Oh yeah.
That's that book bothered me like crazy when it first came out. And she's such a brilliant writer. It had been a while since we'd had a writer who had her own really, I mean, she had her own distinctive voice, and that was refreshing as hell. So to combine the two, as far as short stories,
Well, before you go on, Joe, Kathy Koja, she really deserves to be even more well known than she is. The Cipher is absolutely fabulous.
The Cipher, you know, I haven't read everything by her. Her short story collections are great. I have never read anything by her that I wouldn't give an A to.
Yeah.
She's just a brilliant, wonderful writer. My favorite horror short story is, of course, A Toy for Julia. I'm old school Block fan. I think the story's brilliant. That it's so short, I always thought was an amazing achievement. I mean, it's like, wow, that packs a lot into that little tiny bit.
What we did not get to is favorite Lovecraftian novel. I'll bet you're going to say the 37th Mandala.
Oh, absolutely. Except for I have a huge soft spot for Block's Strange Eons. But the 37th Mandala, granted, there's an awful lot of Lovecraftian novels I haven't read, but of everything I read, Smokes Everything hands down. I think it's the way to write a Lovecraftian tale. Plus, what a great writer. Again, it's the kind of thing where it's not just a really good story, it's that this writer is, as far as wordsmithing, is so wonderful.
Excuse me, memory serves as Mark Laidlaw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Laidlaw.
Okay, Rick, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say Mark Laidlaw.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
There's somebody who, if you read his other work, is a great writer.
Yeah.
Whether you're reading his other horror work or his other weird fiction or sci-fi stuff, tremendous talent.
We should have him on.
Oh, that would be cool as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hung out with him at the Outer Dark Symposium and talked you up a little bit, Mike. He's a very nice guy, and I'm sure he would come on if you asked him.
Oh, well, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Kelly usually does the opposite in public, so I really appreciate you doing that, Philip. Rick.
Can I add a best monster novel?
Yes, sir.
From the 1970s, there was a book called Grendel by John Gardner.
I remember that now. That was, my recollection is that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was Beowulf from the monster's viewpoint.
Yeah, right.
It is not the John Gardner who later wrote James Bond novels. It's a totally different.
No.
a more literary John Gardner. But that was an excellent story, narrated by a monster.
Yeah.
All right, I want to come back to you, Joe, in a minute, but I want for just a moment, I want to stick to Lovecraftian novel and see what everybody else has to say, including Heather and Kat. If I'm not putting you guys on the spot with this, if I am, just tell me. I'm going to start, and I'll say that's very, very hard to choose. You know, there are some definite bad ones out there, but number one, I'll go with Displaced Person by Lee Harding. Written in the 70s. I read this when I was a kid, and it blew me away. And good luck finding a copy, by the way. And I'll throw another one out there by William Sloane, To Walk the Night is very, very good. But again, there's so many. I'm just naming two that I like. I can't even say, okay, these are my two favorites, but these are two that come immediately to mind. So, all right, who wants to go next with Lovecraftian novel? Matt? Kat?
Sure, I can go. I'm going to have to say The Croning. Which is by Laird Barron. And it was magnificent. Intense tension building up throughout the story, and it had a horrific ending. It was really just a great book.
And speaking of, we were talking about Penpal bringing horror to the page. He really does it with The Croning, as he does with so many stories, but really, The Croning did that very well. Kat?
Actually, it's not a novel. It's a series of mangas called Doro Hodoro. In fact, I just finished the 22nd volume here. But it's very Lovecraftian in the spirit of Reanimator. And I don't mean that it's reanimating corpses. I mean the type of humor where you're taking something that's very dark and very serious and presenting it in such a way that makes you kind of smile. Dorohedoro, the best way I can describe Dorohedoro is Harry Potter Road Warrior. It's the best way I can describe it. Where you have... Huh?
Who wrote it?
Q Hayashida, and it's the letter Q Hayashida. You can see that. There we go. There. I'm trying to get the...
Spell the title for us real quick, for those that are just listening.
Dorohedoro. Dorohedoro.
Okay.
And it's got everything. It's got body horror. It's got weird creatures from another dimension that is unspeakable. You even have higher rankings of creatures who serve other creatures who may or may not be sleeping, who serve other creatures. And really, you have these poor humans who barely have any concept of what's going on other than they know they're being fucked with. In this weird dystopian, bombshelled out post-apocalyptic world. And it's like, that's the nice part of it. Things just get worse as you get deeper into things. So highly suggest checking out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rick.
And don't let 22 volumes intimidate you. They go by quick.
Okay, I'll go with Ramsey Campbell's The Last Revelation of Galaki.
Yeah, that's a good one. Kelly, you have one?
Yeah, as usual, I have like three of them. Strange Eons by Block also sits up there for me, but I really loved Pete's Reanimators as far as Lovecraftian rather than weird. And then Stephen King's Revival, I think, is probably right up there.
That is an awesome book that I will never read again, ever. That
Yeah,
ending,
it's a bit of a downer.
that ending was just, oh man. I think even Stephen King said he didn't want to talk about it in interviews. He was done talking about it. It scared him. But anyway, I do recommend, if you haven't read it and you're a Lovecraft fan, you should read it. Very well done.
The most frightening thing in that book, though, is contradicted by other Stephen King novels which are in the same universe.
Yeah, is it in the same universe though?
I mean, I think he's got references to Castle Rock and things like that in that novel.
Not to go off on a tangent, but Castle Rock, the TV series, looks really interesting to me. That comes out on Hulu soon, doesn't it? Does anybody
End of this
know?
month. End of this month, July 25th, I think.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. They don't do it like Netflix. They don't dump the entire season, so you'll have to watch it weekly.
Well, what the shit is that?
They may do they did the same thing as the Runaways when they had it on Hulu.
Okay, does anyone else have a Lovecraftian novel they want to talk about?
Yep.
Okay, Heather?
Well, I'm going to do the same thing Kat did, and I'm going to nominate a person who did a series of manga, Junji Ito, which I know some of you guys know about because I saw some books behind one.
Yeah.
But he's the guy who did Tomie and that stuff. If you guys have ever heard of Uzumaki, which is Spiral,
Oh, I
that's
love
an
that book.
amazing. Yes, I would consider that to be an amazing Lovecraftian novel because it's a series and it's one story from beginning to end, and it's gorgeous, but very Lovecraftian as well.
I would probably second that. Sparrow was amazing.
Did I get to everybody on Lovecraft?
Just a question on these mangas: how adult are they? Because my experience with mangas generally they're samurai stories, which are very.
No, this is different, Rick. It's different. It's not hentai, so it's not pornography. But in spite of that, it's well worth a read. It is a very adult. Yeah, it's a very adult book.
The tentacles are not doing the same thing as
right. It's not at all a samurai thing, and it's not. We aren't asking you to read Fruits Basket, okay?
Yeah.
Now the style isn't even the same. I mean, the style is seinen, which is for young men, quote unquote, and it's an adult-looking style. Yeah,
Well, this is Dorohedoro, and this is about as bad as it gets.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
But it always amazes me. Japan has seems to have no censorship in a lot of things I've seen. It's amazing what they can get away with in their entertainment industry.
They do censor them when they export them, though.
Yeah.
They do, but also they do understand that what is in a book is completely different than what's happening in real life. So they have a better concept of that.
Just to know where I'm coming from, my exposure was to things like Lone Wolf and Cub, Lupin the Third, some other samurai type series.
Have you read any of Osamu Tezuka's darker works? Those are also amazing, like MW and Ode to Kirihito. Those are great. They're very dull.
No, I haven't, but thank you for recommending them.
I recommend them to everyone. They're amazing.
Now we're going to get some good recommendations for manga that I've been craving on this show. It took us so long, Mike.
No excuse.
Oh, I've got a list if you want it.
Yeah, of course I do.
Forgiveness. Let's get back to Joe because I'm so happy to see Joe on. We've not seen Joe for a while. And ask him a couple of the ones that we talked about last week. And I don't think you were here, Philip, either. I think you got to go soon, but tell me when that is. Joe and Philip, how about haunted house novel? Favorite haunted house novel? If I'm not putting you on the spot here, but last week I emailed all this to everybody, so
Hell House.
They had time to think about it ahead of time.
Hell House by
I'm-
Matheson.
I'm reading that right now.
House of Leaves.
Oh yeah.
House of Leaves is, I think, bloody brilliant.
Who the,
And the
who's
fact
the author?
that, pardon me?
Who wrote that?
If I remember correctly, Mark Danielewski.
Yeah.
But the fact that I mean, I've heard some people say, "Oh, they've got too many literary tricks for me." I didn't see them as literary tricks. That, but you're reading along, and on page 332, all of a sudden you got to go back to page 72 and read a sentence to progress on. It sends you back and forth throughout the book.
Yeah, it's daunting for sure.
Yeah, but it screws with your sense of place. We're talking about a place, and where walls do funny things and room sizes are strange. And here's a book that not only are you reading and enter a room, but all of a sudden you're forced to go somewhere else to continue reading about the room. The act of reading, you're actually moving. I thought it was wonderfully done. I mean, that can be conceived as a parlor trick, but it depends on the skill, which is how much of it's used and where it's used. And I thought it was brilliantly done. And I think by far and away, it's my favorite haunted house book.
And as an aside, what an impossible book to put on Kindle.
Oh, I don't know that it could properly be done.
I don't think it could be. Yeah.
I mean, at one point I think you go forward and have to turn the page upside down.
Right. Plenty of points, if I remember.
Yeah, it's.
Joe, what about science fiction novel? And you too, Philip, and also Kat and Heather.
Wow.
And I didn't ask Kat and Heather about Haunted House. We'll get back to that. So sorry about that. Science fiction. You want to think about it for a minute?
Yeah.
All right. Kat and Heather, how about do you have a favorite haunted house / ghost story, novel, whatever?
Where Angels Fear by Manly Wade Wellman. That one's great.
Okay. Kat, what about you?
I have to go with Matheson as well. Hell House, I've read 4 times now, and it just every single time I do, I get something else out of it, and it still creeps the hell out of me. So,
Philip, do you have a favorite science fiction novel or something that ranks near the top?
I liked Rama. I liked 2001. Those are probably 2 of my favorites. I'm sure I could throw a couple of Philip K. Dick in there as well, though I'm more of a short story reader of his. But I loved Rama, and I loved 2001, even though it was technically a novelization of the screenplay.
But
it's a really interesting
wonderfully done.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as favorite sci-fi, it's so hard because there's so much early stuff. In that period where, I don't know, I was 10, 11, 12, 13.
They were on scrolls back then, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they were. Everything was on scrolls. But so much of that early stuff, it just, you'd read one and, you'd buy the next one, and every one seemed to blow away the last one. They all seemed revelatory. And I have to give mention to A Time for the Stars, which was the first paperback that I ever bought myself. It was a Heinlein book, and I thought it was utterly charming. I haven't read it since I was 10 maybe. I don't know how it would hold up. Probably not that well. And warts and all, I still love A Stranger in a Strange Land a ton. Maybe I was young when I read it or whatever, but it was like, whoa. So.
Yeah, I'd also throw out Ender's Game. I kind of forgot about that one. That was pretty influential for me as a young kid.
Well, last, did I ask Kat and Heather about science fiction, or am I just forgetting that I did?
Anubis Gates.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Anubis Gates by Tim Powers, I think.
Yeah, plus time travel.
Extra points, bonus points for time travel.
Right.
I gotta go with Scanner Darkly.
Okay, Dick. Well, apparently there is a Kickstarter called Cthulhu, Tales of Valor and Horror. And they're by Golden Goblin Press. Says a collection of adventures for the Cthulhu role-playing game with a companion short story collection of cat horror stories. Well, I have 5 cats, so I gotta, plug this. What, Matt? Are you thinking, or are you frozen? He's thinking. All right. We'll move on. Let's see here. Rick, if I remember right, you wanted to talk about Robert E. Howard for a minute a couple of weeks ago. We never were able to get to it.
Yeah, a couple of things. The Robert E. Howard Foundation has a new book out called Pictures in the Fire, which is rare Robert E. Howard stuff. It has some completed short stories. Most of the stuff that's rare are fragments. They're like 5 drafts of an early novel called Isle of the Eons, which was his first attempt to write about Lemuria and Atlantis. There's a fragment called Red Flame, which is sort of on the periphery of the Solomon Kane series. So if you're a Robert E. Howard collector, you definitely want this. You can order it from the Robert E. Howard Foundation online. Speaking of Solomon Kane, there is a Solomon Kane role-playing game Kickstarter, which just came out with excellent miniatures. If you want everything in the packet, it's going to cost you between $110 and $310.
Ouch.
But it's got excellent figurines of Kane, and they've given you scenarios for nearly every short story that Robert E. Howard wrote, as well as some new adventures.
Okay. Anything else? Does that cover it all?
That covers all of Robert E. Howard.
I'm really fascinated by alternate realities. Well, more specifically, simulated realities, that sort of thing. On that note, I rewatched Inception for the first time since I saw it in the theater in 2010. Is anyone here besides me a fan of that film?
Sure.
Yeah. I really like it.
Yeah. you know, I don't want to discuss it with spoilers, but
came out a decade ago. I think you're okay.
well, that's true. Okay, yeah. All right, let's discuss it with spoilers. So if you haven't seen Inception, you've been warned. Is, you know, the very last scene, the top is spinning. So was the whole thing? Is he in reality? Was his wife right?
I think that's the big question, right? That's what they leave you with, is wondering.
Well,
I think it's a Lady of the Tiger question.
You know,
does it matter?
well, yeah, I know. I think I know what you mean, Kat, because you could postulate that all realities, simulated or otherwise, are equally valid, right?
Well, actually, it's more for him. Does it matter if it's real or not? It doesn't matter. He finally gets to see his children's faces. He finally gets to see them.
Matter. I think it does matter if there is if he's not in reality and his real children are waiting for him, as well as his wife. Then it matters.
Yeah, but if it's only for like 5 seconds, you know what I mean? Like if all this is happening in the space of like a second, it wouldn't matter no matter how long he's trapped there. To them.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
and I know there are exhaustive theories online about this exact topic. I remember after the movie came out, I read and went down the rabbit hole a little bit, reading about this clue and that clue, and I think ultimately Nolan came out and said, to Kat's point, he said it doesn't. The point is that it doesn't matter because, you know, whether it's because he ultimately has what he wanted, and whether it's in this reality or that reality. But it's frustrating.
Mike, did you ever end up watching the 4th season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Not yet, no.
Because that uses this theme in spades in their last story arc.
Okay, well, you got me with that. You know, I don't know. I mean, all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. You know, I kept thinking about that quote rewatching the movie. Who knows? The 13th Floor is another really good example, which unfortunately came out the same time as The Matrix. And I have to spout an unpopular opinion and say that I think The 13th Floor is a better movie than The Matrix.
I agree with you on that one.
I agree.
Oh.
I have never seen that movie. Now I'm upset.
Yeah, now I gotta go watch it.
do not read anything about it. Do not watch the trailer. Just watch the movie cold.
It's on demand somewhere?
I assume
it
so.
might be. And it's not really that similar a movie. It just came out close to the time of The Matrix, and The Matrix destroyed everything.
Well, it is similar in the sense that they're both dealing with simulated realities.
Right.
That's what I meant.
Check it out. By the way, you might find this interesting. Nolan says the way the end of the film worked, Cobb was off with his kids in his own subjective reality. He didn't care anymore, and that makes a statement on its own. Perhaps all levels of reality are valid. But then he does say the camera moves over the spinning top just before it appears to wobble. So
that's what I thought too, and I always wondered if that was just something you brought to the film yourself. I remember thinking that I thought it wobbled just a bit before it crashes to black, and then I've talked to other people who said no, it was straight on. And I wonder if that's just something, you know, as a person who wants a happy ending every once in a while, especially if you like your characters.
I totally saw the wobble, man. I'm a wobbler.
It definitely wobbled, but then it seemed to start up.
I saw the wobble.
Yeah.
Google wobble, one of us.
Well, Nolan says it wobbles, which means that it was an intentional wobble.
It slices, it dices.
Hey, Mike, I got to run.
All
I got
right.
to go downtown, but I wanted to say one quick thing because I
Get some serum.
What, Heaven? Do what?
Sorry, Blade joke.
Is
He said you gotta go downtown. Anyway.
Is it Blade joke like Wesley Snipes? I should know it. I've seen
Yeah.
that movie 100 times.
I get it.
But because it's kind of full circle, which is that one of the stories that Joe mentioned they really loved, which is A Toy for Juliet by Robert Bloch, is actually in Dangerous Visions, edited by Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
So I leave you with full circle information.
Well, tell Paul I said hello.
I will tell Paul you said hello. I'm excited to go say hello and get my book signed.
All right.
I'll see you guys later.
All right. Thanks,
See you,
Philip.
Philip.
Okay, so for an alternate reality, other kind of movie, what did you think of Dark City?
Loved it.
Oh, wonderful.
Absolutely loved it. And quite Lovecraftian in its own way, too.
Oh, best movie ever. Well, not best movie ever, but great movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I find the concept of the idea that we're living in a dream or simulation, that when we die we wake up, kind of interesting. And of course, you can never get any empirical evidence. However, people like Elon Musk and Nick Bostrom, pretty smart guys, seem to be extremely certain that we're living in a simulation. I'm wondering if you guys are familiar with that simulation argument.
Yeah, my big problem is they
Well,
really screwed up on the programming on my end.
Yeah, we can see that.
It's like, what the hell? Here I am. I've got like this bit part, and the main character is all the way down the street. It's like, can't I redo the simulation?
Were you going to say something, Kat, or was that you, Heather?
No, I was just gonna say I'm familiar with the concept of reality being a simulation, and I'm not a scientist. I don't know the technical terminology, but basically the pared down idea is that if this was not created in some capacity, things should be more random than they are, and instead, on a macro scale, things pair too much towards order than they do chaos for it to be random. Therefore, the idea is that it's a simulation in that sense of it. Now, whether or not that simulation is something of our own, mind, like quantum, like our minds percepting it puts it in order or not, we don't know, but that's the broad stroke of the idea.
Well, I've not heard that. The simulation argument that I was going to put forth, which goes without saying did not originate with me, it originated with Nick Bostrom, and Elon Musk really believes it, is that basically one of three things has to be true, but I'll keep it real simple. One of two things has to be true. Either the human race will die out in the next couple of generations before it can amass enough computing power to create simulated realities with conscious entities, or it won't, which means that at some point the human race is going to, 40 years ago, as Elon Musk said, we had Pong. Now look what we have. We've got all these simulated realities with obviously unconscious creatures populating them. But the more and more, think about 100 years from now, 200 years from now, the exponential computing power that we're going to have. If the human race at whatever point in the future will reach a point where they can create these simulated realities with enough computing power that the AIs are self-conscious or self-aware, excuse me. So either that's going to happen or it's not. The rosier scenario actually is that you're living in a simulated reality, because if the human race is not going to make it, then that's not a rosy scenario. If the human race is going to make it, then there are literally billions of simulated realities out there, and a lot of them nested within simulated realities. But only one real reality. So just running the numbers, I don't think I'm explaining this very well, but running the numbers, how can we think that we're in the one real reality? It doesn't make sense. So wow, you guys are looking at me like I'm speaking Greek.
No, it's interesting. Like, I was kind of wondering at first if it's related to something I've heard described to me as like the gray goo argument, which is something else about, I think, machines eventually becoming autonomous. And then it kind of reminded me of the San Junipero episode of Black Mirror. So I just found it very interesting, all the stuff you were saying. But
Well,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
also know that Elon, he's scared to death of an Asimov reality where computers are running things, and that's why he cautions against AIs.
yeah, yeah. Well,
so do you think we're all sharing this reality, or maybe this is just you imagining all of us? Or
that's yeah. You can
Or maybe
always
we're imagining you.
oh no!
console yourself with solipsism. Yes. So I'm the only being out there. You
Mike,
guys are just figments.
you should really imagine some better friends for yourself.
You're definitely a figment that I need to work on. So yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to think about. It's fascinating to talk about. I wish I could actually explain it better, but I understand it far better than I can explain it. Let's put it that way. There are a lot of great movies and books. If you go to Wikipedia, just Google Wikipedia and simulated reality in fiction, and a lot of great books. Of course, no surprise that several Philip K. Dick books are in there. If you do this, don't read the synopsis, because Wikipedia does give away some spoilers on some of these synopsis. But Permutation City by Greg Egan, that's one. Let's see here. Trying to find Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said, and The Electric Ant, which is, I think, a short story, if I remember right. Movies. Some of them, it's a spoiler to say that it's simulated reality in the first place. Of course, they mentioned Dark City, Existence. Did you guys like that movie, Existence?
Yes.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was thinking of that earlier when you were talking about this stuff.
Yeah. Lost Highway.
Oh, now you're talking about language. Mulholland Drive.
Yeah. Obviously, the Matrix series, The 13th Floor. If you have not seen The 13th Floor, I really can't recommend it highly enough. Vanilla Sky is actually really good too. And then they list a bunch of television ones too. It's if you want to delve into this concept in fiction, there's a lot to choose from, and this is a really good list on this Wikipedia page. So now that I've bored Kelly to tears, do we have anything else to talk about?
Oh, I will mention one thing. I did post it on the eZine message board page. Jason McKittrick's Cryptocurium company, which does all of the cool little statues and stuff that I like, and he has his own monthly parcel of terror, which is like these monthly horror boxes, except with him you get pieces, sculptures, magnets, and stuff like this that he puts out himself. This next one coming up is an all Lovecraft parcel of terror, so
Okay.
it's pretty groovy stuff.
I've actually got a question for Kelly and whoever, because I'm looking at this amazing Creepshow poster behind you. But last night I just finally got around to reading the Bernie Wrightson comic book adaptation to the movie. I was just wondering if anybody else has, seen the movie and the comic book adaptation, and like what they thought about the two of them.
I'm a big fan of that comic book adaptation. I've got my copy from when it came out, and my mother was not very happy that I spent $9 on one thing, but it's one of my treasures. I love that.
He's just so darn good. I didn't realize he did the illustrations for the original, the Stan version that had those horrifying illustrations in it. I didn't know that was him.
Yeah, he's had a nice career with King. Besides Creepshow, The Stand, his Cycle of the Werewolf is very cool.
We're running short on time, so I'll just briefly touch on this. But I've always been a fan of creepy or is there any other way to describe
Creepy and
it?
eerie. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, doppelganger stories, I was going to say. There's a really good one on the No Sleep Reddit that I linked to, and I'll try to do that in the notes later in this show, on the podcast notes and the YouTube notes tomorrow. But also, Laird Barron has a free-to-read doppelganger story on his website. If you Google Laird Barron and the name of the story is Another Me, you can read that for free, and can't beat that. The Laird Barron story for free.
The newest Stephen King book is a doppelganger story, The Outsider.
It is?
Essentially.
Pretty much.
Well, I got back on this because of Paul's Disappearance at Devil's Rock book. You know, so it kind of renewed my interest, I guess you would say. Well, all right. Should I read The Outsider?
It's very good.
Okay. All right.
Well, Mike,
yeah, please, Heather, go ahead.
if you're into, doppelgangers and Reddit and stuff like that, have you ever read stuff about tulpas? Because that can get pretty creepy. They have some creepy stories about that on the internet.
I don't think I have.
Okay, a tulpa, as far as I can tell, I think it's like an Eastern concept that they've, perverted for purposes of the internet. But I think it's a concept that if you think hard enough, you can make up a person or a version of yourself that ultimately becomes real. And of course, people on the internet want to use this often to make their perfect companion or friend, but there are some very scary stories about it too. You might be able to find someone on Reddit that you like if you're really into the doppelganger concept, like, that really creepy Dostoevsky one that was apparently supposed to be a comedy, The Double, but is terrifying, like that kind of thing.
Okay, I'll check that out. Funny story that has absolutely nothing to do with horror, but does have to do with this podcast in a way. My internet was having problems, so they came over and fixed it. This is a couple of weeks ago. So I said, by the way, I'm getting 25 megabytes per second download. And I said, hey, by the way, I thought this was the top package. Is this still the top package, or can I get faster speeds? I've got a gamer son, I've got a podcast and all that stuff. He says, no, you can get up to 100 meg per second download now with us. I'm like, okay, what's this going to cost me? Another $50 a month? I called in, had him take care of it. Guess how much it cost me? $3 more a month. Now I'm at 100 meg download. I just had to brag about that. It's just like,
yay!
When I was a kid, I had this 2400 baud modem. I thought I was just all that,
When I was a kid, I had a rock.
Mr. Rock.
Okay, anything else? Next week we have Jeffrey Ford. Later on, August, there's not going to be a show on August 5th. I've got to go up to Iowa, but Victor Lavelle has moved to August 19th. As I said, Richard Chesmar was supposed to be on today, but he's going to be on, I think, sometime in November. I've got to email him back. Tim Wagoner later on. Brian Hodge, we were just talking about him in September. Matt Ruff, who wrote Lovecraft Country. Mallory O'Meara. And Mike Carey on November 4th. The Girl with All the Gifts. So we've got some great guests coming up. Matt, you're yeah, Kelly?
No, I was just saying, boy, no kidding. We've got some really great guests coming up.
Yeah. And of course you're on the show too, which is a plus.
Not for long.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well. Matt, your prize?
Yes, once again, it is the tribute anthology to Legati, edited by Joe Pulver, winner of the Shirley Jackson Award. It is the paperback Grim Scribe's Puppets. Beautiful book.
And a wonderful editor, Joe Pulver. So, Joe, for those, I think I have a lot of new listeners who, since you got sick, have not either seen you or just seen you like once. So before we exit here, talk about a couple of more of the books you've edited. Just throw out some titles so that people can check you out and read. You're a wonderful editor and writer as well. So.
Well, of course, Grim Scribes Puppets, which indeed won the Shirley Jackson Award. It is Ligotti tributes, but they are not written in Thomas Ligotti style. These are the writers in there use their own, Cisco writes like Cisco writes, even though the story's a Ligotti tribute. I've edited Casilda's Song, which is a anthology of all brand new King in Yellow stories written only by women. Normally I would be opposed to something like that, but the idea that, the one fragment we get originally from Chambers is called Casilda's Song, I thought, it's always her voice. So let's look at what Casilda in different incarnations has to say about the King in Yellow. Coming in November, finally, it's been done for a couple of years, but it keeps getting bumped, is The Leaves of a Necronomicon.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a while.
Yep, finally. The book's been done, but it keeps getting bumped for all number of reasons way beyond my control. And Leaves of a Necronomicon was, I wanted to do a round robin, but novel length. So that's what it is. We have, it's the late 1800s. We have someone is commissioned to manufacture a John D. Necronomicon, to exacting specifications. And that book is created, and we watch the book handed from owner to owner to owner to owner for like 120 years or so.
It's a great concept, yeah.
Who's the publisher?
Kinds of great writers.
Yeah, who's the publisher?
Chaosium.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons it's been delayed so many times.
Okay.
Hey, call a spade a spade.
Benjamin Handelman is saying on the live chat not to forget to plug Nightmare's Disciple.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It's not an anthology, though. That was the first thing I ever wrote, and it's a Lovecraftian. It's a Cthulhu mythos novel,
Right. Sort of a Cthulhu mythos police procedural, really.
It's a police procedural. I wanted to have, we got these murders, and the cop, through various things, discovers somehow or another these murders have something to do with somebody called Lovecraft, who he's never heard of, and he starts to find out about Lovecraft.
From these guys in this weird bookshop. I love that.
Right. Yeah, the horror corner. Two guys, and they basically have a weird fiction horror bookshop in the city. And they give him a crash course in what the Cthulhu mythos is, what Lovecraftian literature is, Lovecraftian film. And I literally put everything in the kitchen sink in there because this cop is going from zero knowledge. And it's the way a cop would normally do it. A cop would, if you had a serial killer who was into, I don't know, tulips or something.
Right. Yeah, you're gonna find out his motivation.
The cops would delve and delve and delve into this body of work to find out as much as they possibly can, or perhaps find out about this killer. And
yeah, because he's trying to build a profile.
Right. He's trying to profile this guy through Lovecraft.
And then within the Well, I just want to, before I forget, within the next couple of months, Lovecraft eZine Press is publishing a Joe Pulver novella, and it's called A Long, Dark, Grim Road. Joe sent this to me a while back, just before he got sick, actually. And I think he just wanted to know what I thought of it, Joe. And I read it, and I said, I have to publish this, if you'll let me. And it's got a great cover, and it will be out soon in print and Kindle.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's the first time I've written a straight, linear tale in a long, long time. And it had been a long time since I'd written a longer short story.
Yeah.
I had gotten to a point where I was keeping them severely short. But that was a lot of fun to write. And let's see, what else have I edited? There was another, A Season in Carcosa, which is another King in Yellow tribute of all new King in Yellow inspired stories by all different people. And I just edited a book with Scott Anilowski that's come out from PS Publishing called Darker Companions. And it's a tribute to Ramsey Campbell.
That's right. Yeah.
But because I was aware of at least 2 Campbell Lovecraft projects, I didn't want this book to do Lovecraft. So these are tributes. There is one, Cody Goodfellow, I allowed to write a Cthulhu mythos story for the book. All the other stories are Ramsey Campbell tributes that are not Lovecraftian. Because again, when we look at Ramsey Campbell, body horror, there's all kinds of other horror in Ramsey Campbell's mature work. Before he returned to the Cthulhu mythos anyway, or Lovecraft.
And how do you say no to Cody Goodfellow anyway? So.
Well, I specifically wanted Cody to be the one to write a Lovecraftian tale because I thought he would go outside of the box, and I didn't want it straight, just another Lovecraftian tale.
Got to get Cody Goodfellow back on the show because
Cody Goodfellow is a brilliant writer.
Yeah. Well, go to Amazon.com, type in Joseph Pulver. You're going to have a lot to choose from.
Or go to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
There's a Wikipedia page for me, and it's got mountains of stuff listed. Short stories, novels, which sometime when things are better, you're going to be redoing The Orphan Palace, which is currently out of print, which is my second novel, which is not Lovecraftian. And the anthologies, like I said, everything's on the Wikipedia page too. So.
Okay, well, Joe, I'm glad you're feeling well enough to come on the show today. It's great to see you.
Yeah, I missed you guys, so it's good to see you all too.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Heather and Kat, for being on the show. Thanks for the recommendations. And next week, what did I say? Jeffrey Ford is our guest.
Fantastic writer.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. One of the best.
And we'll talk to everybody next week. Everyone, thanks for listening. And the prize, if you want to get Grimscribe's puppets, just send an email to lovecraftezineprizes@gmail.com. Put the Grimscribe's puppets in the subject of the email, And in the body of the email, I'm always interested in how you listen or when you watch the show. So thanks for watching and or listening, and we will see you next week.